right, apparently we are live.
Welcome to the In the Garden podcast. I'm here with my host, Jake Hughes.
Your host?
My co-host.
Thank you for calling me that. This is the first time you've ever called me that.
My host. And Maria Hanson and Eleanor Story.
Yeah, we have two guests on this time. Have you ever had more than one guest? This is a big deal for us.
No, this is the first time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Carter's shaking his head, but we've done so many episodes now. It's just we've gotten into that rhythm.
We've lost count.
Yeah. So welcome guys to the show. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much for having us, guys.
Yeah. So you guys are both students at New St. Andrews College, right?
Yep.
We're all in the same class. This is great.
Oh,
so we have four
Let's
people
go.
from the exact same class. This is the class of 2024 right here.
That's crazy.
I mean, not the full one, but we have four graduates.
Tiny.
So yeah. Tell us about yourselves.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Maria Hanson, and I go to
Great.
In depth.
Yeah.
All
What color
right.
hair do you have, Maria?
It's red.
Okay. All right. Well, we have Ellie's story too.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
Tell us about
let's.
yourself.
Oh, really? We're just gonna go with that?
I think that's all people need to know about me.
Yeah.
I'm married.
Sums you up.
From Alaska.
I have a boyfriend.
I have
a boyfriend.
Oh my.
Hey, Ellie, do you have a boyfriend?
I have a fiance.
Whoa.
Don't say it. Does it go French after
Our
that?
guests are automatically better than us. That's what this is.
I mean, you said it.
What is going on?
What is that sound?
The buzz, the innocent buzz.
It's the innocent buzz. I think there was some chords rubbing together.
We might need to reintroduce ourselves.
I think this is perfect. I mean, should we introduce Ellie again? Because
Yeah.
that's kind of.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Well, Ellie's story.
How you doing?
So good.
Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm curious.
Well, in my in my free time, I do a little carving,
Okay.
and that's about it.
Hey,
That
nice.
is not it. I know there's so much more to you than that.
Oh yeah.
No, it's just a carving.
It's just the carving.
Yeah. You
She
recently
sits
got engaged,
she
right?
sits at
You're
home.
in the middle of wedding planning.
Hey, where do you go to
so-
school?
I go to NSA.
Oh,
What color? What color is your hair?
I got that
God.
brown hair.
That brown hair.
That brown
That
hair.
blue-eyed brown
Unique.
hair.
Yeah. I wonder if there are some listeners that don't know the colors of our hair. Should we just,
Oh my
should we
God.
just come out and say it?
Why do we need to tell
don't know.
them
It's
this?
Because we did it with everybody else.
You should
here.
wait until
Jake,
your
what
100th
color is your
episode.
hair?
What color is
Hold
my
on.
hair? My hair is really, really dark brown, or some people call it black.
Do you have any facial hair? I'm curious.
I do have facial hair. My facial hair is blonde, red, and orange.
Legit.
And some black on the sides,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
my mustache is primarily consisted of blonde hair.
Gideon, what are you working with?
Jake, that's not very Indian of you.
I
okay?
know. I question it every day too.
That's okay. I'm Mexican and I'm a redhead, so.
Okay, this.
This is actually
hold
the
on.
craziest.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
dive
want to
into
go.
this.
Okay.
Do you,
The fact that you're Mexican, the first time you ever said that
I
to me,
know.
I thought you were straight up
shocking.
bald-faced lying to me.
no,
I was like,
I can
you
show
liar.
you pictures
Well,
of my
like
mother.
her middle
What?
name's Manuela.
My name is Maria Manuela, and my mother's name was Lopez. So,
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I am a quarter. It's a quarter.
Maria.
Sometimes
Maria
I call
Manuela.
her Maria Manuela Miranda.
This is true.
And you are the most
Nice.
white girl,
Hey.
almost hippie that I've ever known.
So
Here's the thing, though,
white.
is I don't burn. So that's what the Mexican genes did for me. Is I don't burn,
Oh.
even though I'm a redhead.
Every white girl's jealous of you right now.
Every redhead is jealous of me.
Have you
True.
ever put on sunscreen like ever in your life?
I put
is it?
sunscreen on my tattoos and on my ears and my
Okay.
nose. But that's it.
Oh, why the tattoos?
Wow.
Because over time they can get damaged by the
I
sun.
want my tats to be white.
I want my tattoos to not fade, man.
That is a soundbite we need to use to promote this
I want my
episode.
tattoos to
I
be
mean, white.
white as snow. Because the good Lord covered them.
I want some good contrast to my tattoos.
Oh man.
Gideon, what color is your hair? What's going on?
What color is your hair, Gideon? Yeah.
I was vibing with the Mexican thing. Okay, people. I
That's
guess
a
we're
great
back.
out of context statement.
He's just
back to the
embarrassed about
lame
his
white boy.
boring brown hair.
He has sandy
Yes, I am
blonde
white.
brown.
The most interesting thing about my appearance is probably my eyes. They
What
have
color are your eyes?
They're blocked by your
Many
glasses
things.
though, so it's
they are
okay.
they have a
he just
tinge
took them
of green.
off.
They have a tinge of
Ooh.
green with inside blue and
Guys,
then
they have
a
a
rim
tinge of
of
green.
gold.
He just took off his glasses so our podcast listeners could see
yes.
his eyes.
He's a beautiful
Wow.
So
Do you
Jake,
see this
so that
audience?
Jake,
Guys, his eyes are beautiful.
Wow.
I wasn't
Fantastic.
even thinking about that. I was thinking about Jake. I want Jake to see my
I was
eyes.
thinking about Drake.
Well,
I love
guess
it here.
let's jump into our conversation.
Yeah.
Oh man, what are we talking about today, Jake?
Yeah, Jake.
Well, love languages.
Mhm.
You ever heard of those?
Oh
Of
yeah.
course.
There's 5 of them.
Well,
Obvious.
sure.
Bruh.
Okay, I'm a guy. I have not heard about them often. You, however, probably have.
You're just
Anyway.
proving my point with everything that you
The
said.
psychology.
Yeah. So, there's tests that you can do to figure out your own love languages and your like family members' love languages and people that you care about, whatever. Just ways of like knowing. All right, this is how they like feel attention and good love.
Yeah.
Some people it's actual physical touch, like hugging, cuddling, whatever. Others are like affirmation, so good words. Others are like
Compliments.
compliments.
Acts of service.
Yeah, others. Yeah,
Quality
yeah.
time.
Quality
All the
time.
The 5.
Have you
What's the fifth
ever
one?
taken one?
Yes. Yeah.
You have taken one.
There's 5.
What's the 5th one? Have we?
We just said them all. So
And-
it's
Gifts.
It's
Gifts.
gifts.
Is
Yeah,
the-
what's the fun?
It's physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, gifts,
And acts of
and acts of
service.
service.
Yeah.
Okay. There
Yeah,
you
I've
go.
taken it.
All right. Well,
There's a
what-
test.
Oh, we
Ellie,
should go around.
what's yours?
We should do the test on the air.
Actually,
I
know
is it
mine
pretty
off the
easy
top of my head.
to do it?
Yeah.
I'll look up the test.
Yeah, it takes like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It just goes through
boom.
and it's like, hey, if like somebody hurts your feelings, do you want them to like whatever? They're
Okay.
very obvious because you know, like the choices are very clear what it's gonna feed into.
The love language quiz.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've never taken it, but
You
yeah,
should
Ellie,
take it.
have
Yeah. Well,
What's
I
yours?
I think if anything, it really helped me figure out what I really don't like.
Yeah.
So physical touch is something that was never something that I really enjoyed, never something that I really sought after. So I think when I think girls especially tend to be a lot more physical touchy. So it's a really great way to actually communicate to my girlfriends, hey, hugging you every time, not necessarily my thing. But also it made me realize if that's something someone else really likes, here's a way I can help them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I don't know. It's weird putting it in boxes because I don't hate physical touch and I don't absolutely need and adore words of affirmation. But it's nice to kind of recognize that those are things that kind of get me up in the morning.
Yeah.
Does psychology say
That's
those are
really
the only categories, or they're just like they?
Those
No,
are
touch
the
the
main
broad
surface?
reaching, I think, and it just kind of covers all bases for the most part.
You want to find out what you are?
I would not.
I have
would not
the
mind.
I have the
Go-
quiz right here.
You
Go
guys
through
should
it,
do
but let's hear
So
Mariah's
I
first.
I have not
Yeah,
had
go
that
for it.
experience. For
Really?
me,
Close.
for me, my main one by a landslide is physical touch, and if I don't have it, I get really like sad. So
That's why there's so
Which-
many stuffed animals at your house. I have
there's
no
only
idea.
2. There's only 2 bears.
See?
No, it's true. But yeah, like I need like big bear hugs like every day. That's the main one. I don't really need like I'm not like a big hand holder. Some girls want to hold each other's hands or like
As
whatever.
As you'd be like,
no, I love
now that
holding
I'm
Isaac's
here,
hand.
we're getting rid of all these.
No, yeah, I love holding Isaac's hand. But yeah, I remember let's see, freshman and sophomore year, before I was married, and I couldn't go home to see my family like very often. It was only on breaks. And I would go, like Isaac would only come to visit every other week. So I'd go that long without like big bear hugs. And I was like sad. Like I need that kind of like like compression, I guess.
I need to feel strangled.
I do.
Compression. I like that phrasing.
No, it is that. And so yeah, I'm like very much that by a landslide. And then yeah, and gifts I don't really care about. But unless
You feel nothing when
if I
when
no
someone
the
gives
thing,
you a
the
gift.
thing that makes gifts count to me is if I know that the other person's love language is gifts, because usually people whose like love language is gifts means they want to receive them and also are good at like giving them. So if I can tell that it brings this person joy to give me this thing, then I'm very much into it.
Mhm.
But yeah, that like in words of affirmation, I'm like, I mean, it's cool, but like if I don't have that for a long time, I don't really care. If I go without a hug for like 20 minutes, I start crying. That's an exaggeration.
Well, let's hope this podcast is less than 20 minutes long.
No, I mean, if I go like a day without like a good hug from somebody, which doesn't happen now that I'm married, I get hugs all the time. But like
That's good.
before then, I was sad.
Good husband.
Yeah.
All right, Gideon. So what's yours?
Okay, we're gonna find
don't
out.
know.
He hasn't
know.
taken the test.
We're gonna
Pull the
find
test
out.
out, man.
I have a feeling, like I think I know.
Oh, what's
All
your
right.
hunch?
Well,
My hunch, here, I'll say my hunch and then we can do it.
go for it.
My hunch is like words of affirmation and then physical touch.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Okay.
I think that's kind of what I'm doing. But
All right. Well,
Wait, I have a comment about that. That's really interesting
Go
because
for it.
like earlier when we were talking about compliments, you were like, yeah. But then you just said words of affirmation. Your thinking is your top one.
yeah, because at the same time,
words of
While
affirmation
I-
from the bros are a different thing, and
Yes.
words of affirmation from a female.
well, kind of, but I don't know. I thrive off of them, so it's always good to hear them. But at the same time, like I'm a gut. I live by my gut.
You're a gut.
And-
Sorry.
No, so I live by my gut, and I'm a very like cognitive person.
Sure.
And no, you're squinting your ass. I know you're.
No, I'm just interested in what you're saying.
No, but so to me, those always are like, well, I don't know, like tooting my horn. So it's just, I don't know. That's so cliche.
Is it that you
Uh,
need to tell that they're genuine?
Well,
Like, is that
yeah,
what you're getting at?
Well, I think we need to make a difference. We need to clarify that there is a difference between what we perceive as a compliment versus words of affirmation. So I think oftentimes we think of compliment as, oh, cute shirt, or hey, I like those shoes.
yeah,
Whereas words of affirmation can be really specific about like something you've done or something we appreciate about people. My family has this tradition where every single birthday we go around the table and we say our favorite thing about that person. And it's a really
nice.
special moment
nice.
that we didn't realize we were kind of missing.
Yeah.
We created it because my grandpa was dying, and we realized we'd never said what we liked about him to his face. And why wait until someone's dead to say it to their face?
yeah,
So we started just each year, every time someone turned older, we'd gather around
Yeah.
and say, hey, we really appreciate this about you. And it went a really long way in hearing my little brother, who's like 10, be like, Ellie, I love it when you take time to go do this specific thing with me. And it helped me love other people more, but also keep doing things that I knew my family was really appreciating.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah. No, because I mean,
Yeah, that's a really cool
a lot of
tradition.
the tendencies of love languages is that people kind of do what their own love languages is. So, like, if mine is physical touch,
You give it what you
or
receive.
right, exactly. So I like my whole idea is just I need to be that, but other people are like, that's just weird. Get away from me. Like, why are you touching me? Like, well, I'm trying to show you my love, but that's not how they take it. So when
Yeah.
you kind of like you learn other people what their love language is and the difference between that and yours, and you get to know like, okay, and it's actually a great thing to know because when you start watching people and how they start like trying to love you and you register what they're trying to do, if you do that back to them, most times they actually receive it quite well because they're trying to tell you, hey, this is my love language and I'm just trying to do it to you because this is all I know. So it's kind of cool to think about, but like really interesting stuff. But yeah, all right, let's actually figure out my official.
I would love to know this. How do you describe yourself? An adult, a teenager, or a child?
Adult.
Okay.
I hate teenager.
How do you
you're
describe
not.
yourself? In a relationship or single?
Ooh, we're getting
On the air.
deets.
Clearly single.
It's okay. So fill in the blank. It is more meaningful to me when A, someone I love sends me a loving note / text / email for no special reason, or B, I hug someone I love.
I hug someone I love.
I think we already know what it is at this point. But all right, another fill in the blank. It's more meaningful to me when A, I can spend alone time with someone I love, just us, and B, someone I love does something practical to help me out.
See, that's actually kind of an interesting, tough one. I would say both, but at the same time,
There's no both option,
yeah, I know.
sadly.
Darn it.
You can't choose 1 and 2 at the eye doctor.
It doesn't
Are you
really
sure?
work on like tests either,
One?
like school tests.
Or 2.
1?
My
Or
answer is 3.
Is there
A or B? I'm gonna go
none
with
of the
C.
above?
But if you had to pick one, just like without thinking, what would you want to do? Spend alone time with someone, or what's the other option? Someone I love does something practical to help me out.
Okay, I'll be honest. Probably
Bless you.
the first one.
Okay.
Just because if someone I love does something practical, I probably am just thinking, well, that just needed to be done. So glad they did it or someone did it.
Okay.
Quick
That's-
tangent.
Yeah.
This is just like when you're taking the Harry Potter test to kind of
Yeah.
figure out
Which
what house you're
Potter
in.
house are you
And it's like
part of?
it asks you like the wallet question.
Yeah.
And it says, if you found a wallet on the ground, would you steal it or would you return it?
Steal it. Steal it.
I'd steal it.
Like I would.
Take all the money and run.
Well, even if you do decide to steal it, it's pretty
you
obvious what
steal the
house
money and
they're
then
trying to put you in.
you steal the money and then put the wallet back on the ground.
I want to design a test like that, and it's like you steal it, whatever, and then it's like you're in Gryffindor.
I took that Harry Potter test
Answer
when I was
this
a kid.
one question.
I've never read or watched Harry Potter. I don't know what any of it means. So I was like, I'm the perfect person to take this because
Yeah.
I don't understand what any of this is. So
Yeah.
that's a cool, unique
And-
experience.
What were you?
Hold on. Yeah.
I was Slytherin,
Oh,
which is like the bad
Is that
snake
a bad
evil
thing?
one. Right? Yeah.
I've never read or watched them either,
Yeah.
so
From what I've
Generous.
heard, I think that lines up.
generally speaking, that's where the bad people come out of. But at the same time, interestingly enough, that's also where most of like the witty and kind of like, I don't know, just sort of like reserved,
The-
dry humor,
the clever-minded people.
The redheads.
Yeah,
Hey, now.
yeah, clearly. All red.
That's some slander.
Hermione Granger missed out.
I'm more than my hair color. That's not true.
I'm defined by my hair color,
It's
actually.
a good thing we had that recorded. All right.
All right. Next question. Whoops.
Yeah. So I think all of these are going to be fill in the blanks. It's more meaningful to me when A, someone I love gives me a little gift as a token of our love or of concern for each other, or B, I get to spend uninterrupted.
Do you want me to read it? I can read
I
it
get
for
to
you.
spend uninterrupted leisure time with those I love.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you that it is late at night. And not really, but
I can't even
probably the second one.
spend uninterrupted leisure time.
Yeah.
Cool.
You did slightly better on this thing.
Chill.
Proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. Finally. I have no idea how many questions are left. Oh, we've answered 12 out of 30 questions.
Oh my
my
word.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
You know what? We
never
know.
mind.
We know.
Yeah.
what
I
they
think
are.
we
we know
We got
what it
this.
is by now. I think
It's physical touch. and
Physical
words of
touch, yeah.
affirmation.
Congratulations.
physical words of affirmation.
Physical
Physical
words of
words.
affirmation.
Yeah.
Physical words.
I think that means
service.
a poster.
Yeah.
A poster that says "I will help you." Physical
Just and it's
Physical
just
words of
it's a small
service.
kitty. It's a small kitty that's got its paws
hanging
up.
from a. Yeah.
I will help you.
That's kind of menacing, actually. All right.
That's kinda-
Why is
yeah.
a small cat?
All right.
I will.
Okay,
help
you know what? I'll give it
That
to
is
that.
a
It's a small
threat.
devil.
Guys, the real question is, Jake,
Jake.
what is your love language?
What's my love
Called-
language?
What is your
Out.
love language?
What are they again? I need to.
Okay, so
I know
it's-
physical touch, giving gifts, words of affirmation. What are the other two?
Acts of service, quality
Jinx.
time.
Jinx, you owe me a
Okay.
Coke.
Pinch poke.
What the heck?
What's the rhyme? Pinch poke, you owe me a coke.
Okay.
I heard it was like slug bug. You owe me a Coke, or
I thought
Jinx,
it was like you owe me a sody.
Jinx,
All
you
right,
owe me
get
a
outta here.
soda.
a sody. It's the first time in the history of ever that the word sody has ever been said.
No, that's just
Sody.
that's just Wisconsinese.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. And I'm just speaking boomerese because
Anyway, I think I'm probably either physical touch or words of affirmation.
that makes sense.
I think
Okay.
those would probably be the top two.
Which, leading back
What'd
to
you
the
call
point,
me? Oh. Which?
which that's a funny
She
story I
turned
have.
into a newt.
Which leads back to the point I made. Those are the things that men get the least.
Words of
affirmation and physical touch.
affirmation.
Thank
yeah.
you.
They get them the least consistently.
Thank
right?
you, Mrs.
Well, that's
Holmes.
why it's kind of like a thing with guys. It's just like, I remember one time, like my grandmother called me handsome, and it's just stuck with me ever since. You know, I'm getting the nod from Carter over there. It's something that sticks with you because generally it's a given that, you know, women are more receiving of compliments.
Yeah.
And
Well, they are described as crowns. So
there's that. And, out of the blue, if, a guy compliments another guy, we always assume that there has to be like a reason, or what are they trying to get out of this sort of situation?
true.
So,
Well, because most guys are not. Well, most times they're pretty forward about stuff until they're not, and then they're pretty backwards. Yeah. But that's about
Anyway,
it.
like, does that bother you? Because it bothers me, but I don't know if that's just because I don't know. I guess I feel like that shouldn't be the way that it.
does it bother me that I
is
don't get a
necessarily.
lot of compliments, or
Yeah, I guess. And maybe that's a hard question to answer.
not really? I mean, am I happy to get a compliment? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't like keep track of how many I get per day.
Well, okay.
Usually.
Here's the more important question: where is your main compliments coming from? Because I get compliments from my family, like people I love.
Mostly
I get
family,
compliments from, and that's like I can give a rip about anyone else giving me a compliment. I don't care. That's whatever. But if my family's giving me compliments, I'm good. Like I feel like that's
the majority of it in my case is also family. But every now and then you get like nice tie, or you did a great job in this, or I really liked your point about this, and it's just like, okay, that's we rarely ever hear that. Rarer than I would assume women, but
Which I think if us girls are actually honest about where we'd prefer, for the most part, our compliments to come from, like I'd say we actually dress for each other. Like we're looking
Or just
for
ourselves.
the other girls to
But
be
mainly
like,
the other
hey,
girls, yeah.
that's a good outfit. Or we like the way you did your hair that way. And that's just something that's going to
you
come
do it to get compliment from the girls.
from the girls.
Primarily. Okay.
What?
Yeah, women.
I thought you guys did it to get catcalled. Like
Oh,
that's-
yeah, for
Just
sure.
for the male gaze.
Yeah.
All right, I can check off my chauvinist comment.
Awesome.
But-
Yeah, no, that's true. And a compliment from another woman definitely means more, like a physical compliment.
Well, because we know
Yeah.
more about what goes into it. So I think it's kind of the same thing where I think most guys would appreciate it more from the people that you're really close to because they knew what went into whatever they're complimenting.
Yeah.
So I think the question is, Maria,
Oh boy.
who do you want complimenting the guys more?
Just the fellow guys.
Just like the fellow guys?
Yeah. I mean, because I think that's actually something that could change. I mean, I operate in a different way, and I don't expect other people to do this. If I like something that somebody's wearing, regardless of whether they're a man or a woman, I'm going to compliment it. I don't really hold in compliments. I used to, but now it's like it can't be taken as flirting or anything. I'm married. Like my compliments are very clear about what they mean.
Right.
And I just like to do that. Just I don't know.
It doesn't help being in like this highly not sensitive, but
Well, no.
on red alert,
that's-
like
no, it's
community that we
sensitive.
live in,
No, I
where
agree with
anything can
that.
be interpreted as flirting.
It's
I agree with that,
sensitive.
and I wish that it wasn't that way.
Yeah. Like you could
And
say
so-
just a passing compliment, and it can be
they're gonna think about that forever.
misconstrued.
Yeah.
Like it happens more on like the receiving end for guys. Like if a girl compliments them, they're already making wedding plans.
Right.
It's-
And so
it's
that's
the
why I'm not
stereotype.
suggesting that like if we're talking about the NSA setting, I'm not suggesting that other like
not-
female
yeah.
students necessarily compliment guys just because it means even if they don't mean it this way,
Yeah.
it might be taken as something more than it is. And I wish that wasn't the case. But
That
I'm not
was-
I'm not trying to change that because that's kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
But I guess I've talked to a couple people, a couple guys, one in particular I'm remembering. But it's a sort of thing where it's like, oh, like girls are getting all of this like affirmation from their girlfriends, and with guys it's less that. And I've observed it in the comments or whatever.
Yeah.
And it like I don't know, it just doesn't seem like okay. It doesn't really seem like the guys are like building each other up in public very much. And I know like I have to clarify that because I'm not suggesting that like you guys are necessarily tearing each other down all the time. And I think there's probably an unspoken respect between you guys that doesn't really need to be said.
You suck, Jake.
You have no idea how far an insult can go for someone's friendship.
I don't know. I guess
I didn't mean that, Jake. Don't take
That's
that.
okay.
anyway. I
People,
guess like
guys, guys insult each other, and they it's meant as playful.
True.
In the same way that if I were to say Gideon, if he makes a bad decision, I'm like, you idiot.
Yeah.
That's in a way loving him, and it's in a way insulting him at the same time.
In some
We
ways,
have a weird way of expressing love to our to our bros. you
yeah.
know?
No, well, in some ways, I think that lack of kind of compliments lends itself to more of an impact when that single compliment is put forth. Like,
Mhm.
wow, you look nice tonight. Like, hey, you dressed up, you cleaned up quite well. Good for you, man. And then
Yeah, looking
guys
sharp.
actually are like, wow, I did something right there. And so it sticks with you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Instead of just like a hey, continuous like, oh, you look so nice, or hey, like what, oh, wonderful, you look great, or that was so good. And it just kind of begins to wash over you, and you just don't take that much notice of it.
Which that's the genius of Mr. Griffith's teaching style is we're all constantly vying for his attention and his love. And I think he's really brilliant with just the amount of students he has and the way he's able to actually give his full attention to everyone because he isn't flippant. He's
Right.
very purposeful about actually checking through everyone's work, giving real feedback, and really complimenting when the compliment is needed or giving
When it's
praise when the
earned.
praise is earned.
Well, it's because most times it's just a simple, that sucks, or that's not right.
Yeah. Which something that, and I'm not the biggest fan of how sometimes we as girls do tend to just constantly compliment each other. Because there's times when it's like, oh, okay. Like,
Now
Why
what?
was that needed?
it just, sometimes it's a lot. And it just doesn't necessarily need to be that way. Now, I'd rather that than it be the opposite. But sometimes I do think we do it as girls, sometimes just to get the compliment back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I heard this.
It has to be genuine.
Yeah, I heard this thing that guys insult each other because they don't mean it, or because they don't mean it, and girls compliment each other because they don't mean it.
Oh,
I've heard something like along those lines where it's just like, okay, that kind of makes sense. At the same time, it's kind of like it's something that a lot of these dating podcasts are just like they say it to like own the panel of feminists over there.
Right,
or just-
right. And it like
But
obviously
there's an element of truth in it.
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
there's pitfalls either way, right? So women
Yeah.
can be overly complimentary or whatever, and then it ends up being catty or distant, whatever.
Yeah.
And then men can be like that jokey thing, and then it can turn really aggressive. And I've seen that happen before in some like really upsetting ways where
Right.
you have a guy who's like razzing another guy, but it goes too far.
Yeah.
And then this leads actually into like a bigger conversation, which I'm bringing up, but we don't need to delve into because it's a huge conversation. But like men's mental health and like how it's really overlooked. Because and I think it has to do with it because like I don't know, it just sort of feels like men aren't. This is funny, but like men aren't talked about very much.
Yeah.
In like a how are you feeling, how are you doing type of way. And so,
Sure.
And what are you really thinking right now?
yeah, like it'll just be like, how you doing, man? Oh, good. And then there's no follow up. Not that there needs to be like,
Because we take their word for it.
well, and everybody
could
does
be on
that as
us,
a,
too.
everybody does that as a greeting. Like, how are you? And you don't,
Mhm.
you like kind of aren't supposed to answer that truthfully necessarily because like you don't want to burden somebody when they're
Sure.
like in passing.
Yeah.
But like, and obviously I'm not a guy, so I don't have these types of friendships. But from conversations I've had with other men, there's less of this like really checking in with your guy friends about like how they're doing mental health wise. And I think that's important to do. There's a reason why like suicide rates in men are much higher than in women.
Well, in some ways, I think it's more. I agree with you that is overlooked, and in some ways, I think that that's just sort of the evil of a sinful world. Guys that are actually dealing with their mental health on a regular basis are guys that are actually going out and finding like elders or brothers in Christ or someone else that they can go find and just say, hey, like I'm dealing with this issue. Can we talk? And that's how most guys deal with it. And that's when you see like a good mental health from a guy.
Yeah.
Whereas
I'm just not
I
sure
mean-
that happens.
no, I
Yeah.
agree. I
Doesn't
agree
happen
because
enough.
most guys are not
Oh.
proactive enough. Most guys are not thinking in proactive terms. They're mostly thinking in reactive terms, especially weak men of our day.
Yeah, they don't want to admit that they have the problem and in the first place, and they don't like asking for help.
Right.
Well, it's hard to. I mean, for anyone. I think probably particularly for men.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we need to recognize that there is actually a fundamental difference in the way that God created us to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have women who really do need to be asked, because we really do need to talk about it, because we are emotional, not necessarily in a bad way. Emotions can be a wonderful thing. But just the way that we the way that we communicate tends to be in a much more emotional fashion, with a lot more facets to it. Whereas guys are a lot more physical communicators, definitely a lot more simple. I think you can see this just in the way guys and girls interact. And it's been something that I'm really figuring out for the first time as I've gotten into a relationship and I'm looking towards marriages. Wow, we communicate really differently.
Right.
So oftentimes when I do ask him, how are you doing? And it's good, he just is good. And that's it.
Yeah.
And if he isn't feeling good, he needs to go chop some wood. And I think that at a basis is a good way of seeing it. But also there do tend to be some men who are a little bit more of emotional communicators and some women who are a little bit more physical communicators. And we can look towards that. But I do think it's a little bit more of an anomaly than it is more the way things actually are. And I don't know if that's changing just because we are in the 21st century, and social media is everywhere. So everyone's we're on a very similar communication platform.
Yeah.
It's been on my mind a little bit, and I think another aspect of it is, or maybe a consequence of like these conversations not happening with men potentially, is that when a man is struggling with his mental health, and this obviously won't happen to everybody, but when it does happen, sometimes they're not actually equipped to figure out what they're actually feeling because they're not used to dealing with it, and they're not used to sitting down and thinking
Right.
what am I feeling? Because obviously if that happens too much, you've got a problem. But now they don't have the emotional vocabulary, I guess, to deal with it.
Sure.
And then they can't even tell if something's wrong, and then it just gets too big to deal with.
Mhm.
So which bothers me, and I don't really know what the answer to any of this is.
No, I think it's.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, my personal opinion is that it's just the evil of a sinful world. Like men's health lacking, or the lack thereof, is kind of the nature of the beast in
Yeah.
some ways. Obviously, with much of the evils of this world, we fight against them, and we try to eradicate them, whether it be disease or failure of human communication or whatever that evil may be. We try and fight against it. So I think that's definitely an aspect of something that we should be fighting against. But at the same time, don't expect it to fully go away.
Oh no, of course not, and I wouldn't.
Yeah, yeah.
My concern, my thought, I guess, is just I do recognize this as a problem,
Right.
and I
something,
do think
something to be addressed.
Yeah, and I do think that it arises just from human nature. It
Yeah.
makes sense that this would be a problem for men in a broad stroke.
Right.
But I'm not satisfied with that, obviously.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
And so
Well, I'm not. Yeah, my goal is not to say that you should be satisfied with
No, of
kind of
course.
that status quo. Oh, I hope not. I'm not saying that, but just to be this is the tendency, and we can recognize it and
Yeah.
still fight against it.
yeah, I just think maybe there needs to be more tools out there because it just sort of feels like women's mental health is talked about a lot, and so I think that broadly speaking, we're better equipped to kind of come to grips with it and face
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's also usually not oh, you're weak for being depressed, girly. But I think sometimes that is the response to men, where it's oh, you just need to get over yourself.
And amen.
Which sometimes
Man.
that is the answer. Sometimes it is very much not, and that can end up
Get over yourself.
causing more problems.
Suck it up.
So
and
anyway, I
deal with it.
yeah, and I don't think because then it's okay, how, right? So I think there needs to be more tools, and I don't know what those tools are. Like I've thought about this a little bit, and I don't really know what the practical answers are. But I've only talked to a couple people, so I thought I'd bring it up. Just
Yeah. Did you know June is technically Men's Mental Health Month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many
it's
things-
overshadowed by so-called Pride Month, but it's
Yeah,
it's
but
weird
then
that
it's like,
that
what
is
does that
the
even-
same thing.
I was gonna
It's-
say,
it's
that's-
weird that is the thing that's overshadowing it.
One
You
leads
got
to
to
the
think, I'm
decline
like,
of
one
the
links
other.
to the other. Yeah.
Well, but also like a month saying like it's like that does nothing. Like okay,
Yeah. So what?
but like what does that do? Like what does
Therefore,
that? Yeah, what does that do for the guy who's actually like struggling?
yeah.
I think maybe there's like these are kind of hot words, but I think maybe there's like a stigma around it where it's like okay,
Sure.
if there's this idea that for a man to be struggling with his mental health and he like actually is being kind of crippled by it, if he comes out about that, he's weak.
Well, I think it's born out of the countercultural movement against this sort of weak man. I mean, you're seeing a countercultural movement of like, whether it's strong or weak, it's still there. It's still present of just guys who are like, hey, you know what? I'm not a pansy. I can actually deal with things. Like, I am actually going to be muscular. I am actually going to do things. I'm actually going to have goals. I'm going to be very ambitious. Like, so the trend of the woke, there's people that are fighting against it. And if you're fighting against woke pansies who can do nothing but talk about their feelings, you're like, well, then I'm not going to talk about mine.
Which is
To
absurd.
counteract it.
Which is absurd.
It is absurd. Like they're both extremes, and
but
it's like
it's
you gotta
it's-
find the middle ground here.
right. It's the pendulum swing. And so in some ways you have to fight against the pendulum swing. Even while it's going to the good thing, you have to be like, all right, wait. Let's put on the brakes before we actually hit there so we slow down to the right moment.
Yeah, and I think potentially like in circles like the one we're in, it can kind of be this thing where saying, oh, we need to work on men's mental health and they need to be more emotionally literate, can kind of be like, oh, you're being woke. And it's like, no, like the woke movement has a couple things that are right. And like far rightists have a couple things that are right too, but both are extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be afraid of something that the woke people are saying just because they're woke, right?
Yeah.
Like that's dumb rhetoric to think like, oh, I can't take this thing because of who this person is.
Yeah.
Like that's just stupid. So,
Now,
but
you
I
know-
think we have a tendency to do that.
You know one thing that
But-
I'm annoyed about that people won't talk about
What?
over here? It's just like man crushes. Where are they? The first
Where are
time
the man crushes?
the first time I mentioned
Man
a man
crushes?
crush, a man crush in the house.
You're
the guys who-
gay.
The guys
Yeah.
who literally just like, you gay. It's
You're
like,
just dumb.
wait, hold on, what?
No.
Is that just
Have
like
you
a
ever-
dude that you
It's
think
more of a joke.
women will find attractive? Or
No,
what's
it's
No,
more
it's
of a-
being like,
it's
oh,
more
this
of a
guy's
joke.
cool.
But this, yeah, it's like,
that's
dude,
that's
that's
called
a
having
dude right
friends.
No,
No, I know.
So it would be like correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to be like an actor or something, and you're like, they've got it made. Like
that's
a lot
that's
of
kind
just,
of it.
just
There's
someone
also-
that you
Like they're
look.
attractive, or
Yeah.
maybe they're like cool personality wise.
Or
Women
there's-
have this all
I
the
bet
time.
he gets a lot of success with women, sort of thing. Or
No.
Not
No,
necessarily.
it's more like I'll give you an example. There's a guy at my old church that I kind of have a man crush on. Ex
the
bull
truth
rider
is coming
ex-
out. I'll
ex-
get the censor button ready.
Stop. See, this is the problem. Continue.
No, I won't say it. Okay.
No, what?
well,
he's
I'm
an
genuinely curious.
Yeah,
I mean, I
he's
would
an
just
ex-bull rider?
Me and my dad really like him. He's ex bull rider, just super deep, gravelly voice, and it's like
Badass.
cool dude, knows how to work on it, pretty much anything. Just a handyman, and like great guy, loves the Lord, and it's like, dude, that is a straight up dude right there. And so he's like, that's my man crush because he's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I for
Dave-
sure got
Dave
one
Mills.
of those. Like my woman crush, Rebecca Merkel.
oh yeah,
Like she is so cool, guys. She's like got her own
so-
business.
So,
She's-
someone you aspire to be like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
got skills and she's really been able to like keep using those and turn them into businesses and pursue her own interests. And she has really cool kids and
Yeah.
you can tell she's a great hostess. It's very obvious kind of that she's got some really cool things going on.
yeah,
It doesn't mean you
absolutely.
have to want to be like them. It can just be admiration. Like there doesn't necessarily have to be an aspect of I want to be them.
Yeah, exactly.
You can just like it.
It's like an
You're "That's cool."
inspiration.
Yeah. It's not really anything special more than just like, dang. I mean, for a dude, it's just more of like, dang.
You can also be like,
They're
they're
just
mad pretty. Like,
Yeah, but they're just
Nice.
known as man crushes. That's, I mean, maybe the terminology is the
I always
biggest thing
heard of
that
a-
throws people off.
Well, it's a joke.
no, it's just
more of
the
a
name.
joke.
Yeah.
But, I mean, because
It's like a
who
meta
actually
joke
thinks
sort
of
of
a
thing.
man crush? But like, yeah, it's just like a man. That's a cool dude, and because you like him, it's just man crush.
Okay.
But the first time I said it over here, I was kind of taken aback by people going, "You're gay." It's just like, what?
Because you use the words man and crush in the same sentence.
Oh, heaven forbid.
What? What? Why? Why is this so weird?
This is
Yeah,
the
I
first
don't-
I've heard of it. So
Okay.
It's
You-
not the first
you
I've heard of it.
stuck-up
It's
northerner.
No, it's
I'm just
definitely a thing.
uncultured.
Yeah, get more man crushes, Jay.
I need more man crushes.
Yeah.
So, loosen up a little.
There you go.
All right.
You heard
Well,
it
is
from the
that
mouth
the takeaway from this episode?
Get more man crush.
Get more man
yourself
crushes.
a man
Get
crush.
yourself a man crush.
All right. Well, should we wrap it up there?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys
On
for
a man
tuning
crush.
in. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning
This is
in.
a wild ride.
We were happy to have you guys on. We'll have to have you on again sometime
absolutely.
soon. We'll see you guys next week. This is In the Garden with Jake Hughes and Gideon Marlatt, and our special guests Maria Hanson and Ellie Story.
Adios.
Imagine being Carter and having to listen to this for 12 more hours.